Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, this is just deceptive. The way that headline reads, it makes it look like Muhyiddin is accused of stealing 230 something million ringgits. That's not what he's accused of at all. But when you put a headline that he's in a corruption, he's charged with corruption in a case involving 230 something million ringgits, everyone is going to assume that he pocketed that money, that's what he's being alleged to have done. That's not what he's alleged to have done. I saw in another article that said that Muhyiddin was accused of skimming from the public funds. That's not what he's accused of. And in that same article, they said it's a graft case. Okay, well, that's not what graft is. Graft is when a public official takes compensation, i.e. a bribe, for services that don't deserve a compensation, that are not supposed to be paid for. So you take a payment to do your job. That's what graft is. So you can't say that he's accused of skimming in a graft case. That doesn't make any sense. Those are two different types of crimes. And in this headline, where they say he's involved in a corruption case that involves 200 something million ringgits, everyone is going to assume that he's guilty of stealing public money. But that's not what the allegations are. That's not what the accusation is. The accusation is that there were people who took bribes to funnel the funds to certain companies that had paid bribes. And now, in the other case, as I've mentioned before, Muhyiddin is accused of seeing to it that a tax exemption status would be reinstated for a friend of his, whose tax exemption status for his charity, one of the largest Islamic charities in Malaysia, lost its tax exemption status under the Pakatan Harapan government, and that the head of that organization appealed for the tax exemption status to be reinstated. And under Muhyiddin, it was reinstated. And because that same individual who runs that organization made donations to Bersatu, they are conflating that with bribery. Not that the man maybe has been making donations to Bersatu because he believes in Bersatu. It's very normal for someone to make political donations. That's how any of these political parties are able to operate, because they get donations and contributions. So it's entirely conceivable that this man is simply supporting Bersatu, and he also happened to get his tax exemption status reinstated. The two things are not necessarily connected, and you have to really prove that those two things are connected. But either way, there is no allegation of theft in the cases and the charges against Muhyiddin. But when you put a headline like that, many people don't even read the article. They'll just see the headline. And if they see the headline, their assumption will be, well, he stole money. But that's not the allegation against him at all. And when you see deliberately misleading coverage like this, deliberately misleading headlines like this, it increases the impression that this is politically motivated, that this is a politically motivated case, a politically motivated prosecution. And one of the other reasons why that impression is increased is when the newspaper that is deliberately misleading in its coverage of the case happens to be a newspaper that is at least partially funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a front organization of the CIA. And the National Endowment for Democracy also funds Pakatan Harapan. When the coverage is like this, and the people who are behind the coverage, backing the coverage, funding the coverage, are the same people who are funding the party that's in power. And when the coverage is deliberately misleading, that makes it look even more like this is a political maneuver. And Allahu Alam. Jazakum Allahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum.